Welcome back to Tarot and Beyond. Today's reading is one that I've actually been putting off for a few days now. Spirit has called me to this reading topic, and I have hesitated because it is going to be a brutally honest reading. And yes, I am a truth teller and I don't sugarcoat things, but there's something about brutal honesty that I really have a hard time with, especially being the deliverer of harsh news. Now, that's not the intention of this reading. It is here to support you in understanding deeper truths that are relevant to you at this time, and that's why Spirit has called me to do this reading. But they are going to deliver it in a very cut and dry type of way. So that is what you're in for, so be prepared. If you have clicked on this reading, you are a brave soul. I'm still unsure of what's going to come up, but we're going to go through it together, okay? So you have 3 options to choose from today: group number 1, group number 2, and group number 3. The timestamps are linked below in the description box or pinned in the comment section, so use those to skip ahead to your chosen reading or readings. If you feel called to more than one, that's perfectly fine. Use your intuition to take what messages resonate with you. If you feel called to all the readings, that's fine too. It really doesn't matter. It's just what feels right for you. So trust your intuition, and we'll see you in your readings. Okay, here we go. Welcome, brave souls, to group number 1. Let's find out what card you chose. You have butterflies, the 6 of flutes. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm getting this message that you are excited about something, and Spirit is not here to dash your hopes and dreams, okay? So they want to preface this reading by saying that this is not going to be the type of truth that completely dashes your hopes upon the rocks of fate, is what they just said. That's a beautiful phrase. Yeah, okay, so that's a little reassuring. Now let's get a couple more cards. They want me to, we're going to start with the rest of this deck. So we're just going to grab a few more cards from here, and then we'll go on to some others as well. I'm just going to intuitively pick the decks. I haven't pre-planned anything here. It's all going to be on camera, and it's all completely guided by Spirit. So let's take a look at these. You have the Page of Roses with the free spirit. You want to be free, huh? I'm seeing that for sure. You want to be free, free like the butterfly, to just float and exist in life. You want to just relax and have a good time. I mean, jeez, look at this. I'm nervous. I don't want to be doing a harsh truth reading, but we're here. You've got this lady lounging on this floaty in a pool. It just feels very luxurious, laid back, not really caring about anything in the world, just being at peace. Ooh, but you have a heart in chains with possessive, the 4 of rings. So your heart longs to be free, but it's attached to something, or it's being held back. It wants to fly, but it's being restricted. Now they're showing me chains on the butterflies. Yeah, it's like you're being trapped is kind of the energy I'm getting here. You're being trapped by something. Let's find out more information. Self-elimination. Ooh, 8 of flutes, self-elimination. So this is kind of like you're counting yourself out too early, group number 1. You're like stepping out of things that you want, or stepping away from things that you want. I just got the phrase, or the words, self-sabotage. Yeah, so a lot of this is attachment that is creating self-sabotage for you. It's preventing you from being that free spirit that you want to be, and having, I just heard, a lack of responsibilities. Now, I think that a lack of responsibilities is actually what's contributing to this, like a lack of self-responsibility, continuing to kind of walk away from things that you're meant to be persisting with. I think that to get to this level of freedom, you really have to do some hard work. And I think that because you are a free spirit, it may be difficult for you to really buckle down and dig into the ground to build that foundation. Like it is blood, sweat, and tears that kind of have to go into this to create the freedom for you. And I think the attachment is really to the idea that you can just step into this level of freedom and exist in that. And because that's kind of where you're at energetically, or that's who you are at soul level, but it doesn't work like that. You do have to do the work. You have to put in the hard labor, is what Spirit is telling me right now. So it's not like you're just going to strike it rich or hit the lotto or, go viral or something like that. It's like you actually have to sit there and continually dig and dig and dig to build what you want to build. And if it's something big, then it's going to take a lot of big effort. You have fantasy suites, 9 of flutes. Yeah, it's like you have this fantasy and it's kind of like you've got to anchor it. You've got to ground yourself, group number 1. You're kind of like too much in your dreamland a little bit. And this is a harsh truth reading, so I'm going to tell it like it is, because this is what Spirit is saying. It's like you're too much in fantasy land where you're dreaming of all of these things that are going to be, but you may not be backing it up with action, or you may be kind of like counting yourself out and quitting before you've even started, or maybe quitting when you're mid attempt. You haven't even gotten past the threshold of like the middle point, and you're like, well, it's not working, so I'm going to try something else. So you want to kind of look at if that's a theme or a pattern in your life, and if this is resonating with you, even if it's triggering you. The triggers are resonation as well, by the way. Triggers are a good thing. They help to show you where the healing is needing to be had, so they can help to direct you to that. But yeah, I'm seeing that like if you have a pattern of quitting before you've even achieved anything, or not even starting because you're afraid of failure, or you're afraid of the work that it's going to take, I'm seeing that it's really important that you kind of get out of this fantasy land of I can just be completely free and not have to do any hard work to exist as this free spirit that I am. You are meant to be a free spirit, group number 1. They're not trying to dash your hopes on the rocks like they were saying in the beginning. They are here to tell you that it is possible for you to be free and to just luxuriate and to live a very abundant life, but you have to do the work. Influencer. Maybe some of you want to be influencers. Maybe some of you have this idea in your mind of, if I just keep posting, if I just keep doing this or doing that, then things will work out and everything's going to be okay. If I can just look a certain way or post a certain thing or do a certain thing, it's all just going to happen all at once. And unfortunately, I'm here to tell you again, it doesn't work like that. Now, what they're saying is that if you strive to be an influencer, and okay, this doesn't have to apply to you if you're not trying to be an influencer, just take it and apply it to whatever it is that you are doing. But we're just going to use the influencer example because it's here. If you strive to be an influencer or successful at whatever work that you're doing, they're saying that is possible. It is possible, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's like, my mom used to say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And she's not wrong. Like in this day and age, there are kind of outliers from that. There are extravagant circumstances that can create somebody, and launch them into the spotlight overnight. But they're saying that this does not apply to you because this is not part of your soul's destiny. They're saying that you are meant to be in a position of leadership, or you're meant to be in this position where you can be very free, but it's part of your soul's destiny. It's part of your fate to kind of incrementally work toward it, to really create that for yourself through some hard labor, some dedication, some discipline, because at soul level, you are a free spirit. And what souls tend to do is they'll incarnate into situations, or they'll choose incarnational experiences that will challenge them to develop that which they are not. So if you're a very free spirit, you're very free flowing, then you may have to step into a little bit more of the disciplined energy, organization, planning, forethought, application, persistence, these kinds of things. It's kind of like the dichotomy between Pisces and Virgo. Pisces being very free-flowing, free-spirited, a dreamer, a big deep thinker, not necessarily the one who's going to plan ahead, not necessarily the one who's going to take all of the little nitty-gritty applications and really do the paperwork and dot the T's, no, dot the T's and cross the I's, dot the I's and cross the T's, like that kind of thing, where Virgo is much more apt to do those things. And we're not talking about people here, we're just talking about archetypes and energy. And so it is kind of like, how are you going to incorporate more of that which you are not to achieve your goals? It's developing more of the skills that are going to get you to that which you would like to possess. But again, you also want to be mindful of, is this what you want to possess? Is this something that you want because it's going to set you free, or is this something that's actually going to trap you even more? So let's get some more information on that. Oh, that was fast. You have adversity. Yeah, I accept that challenges are the best way to learn. That's exactly what I was just talking about. That's what Spirit is really trying to drive home here in this harsh truth reading, is that you need to go through these periods of adversity that are going to help you to develop the character to be in a position of leadership, or to be in a position of influence, really. Because if you're an influencer, there's a reason why it's called that. You influence people. And if you got there without doing any work, then that is not like a stable foundation upon which to influence others. Like, you need to develop the character to be able to actually have a positive influence on people around you, is kind of what they're saying here. And that's why this adversity is a good thing, because it helps to challenge you so that you can learn, so that you can grow into this person that you are meant to be. There's a reason you're destined for this. There's a reason that you're called to it, I should say, is because it's in your heart. Like, you have a lot of hearts in this reading. It's a dream that lies within your heart, and it can become reality if you endure this adversity and you overcome these challenges to get what you want. So let's take a look at this possessiveness. What is this possessiveness? Balance. I bring a state of perfect harmony into my world, and I do so without judgment. So they're asking you to balance yourself out here, because I'm seeing that the possessiveness may come from this place of lack, where you're trying to possess something that you think is going to set you free, but by trying to possess it, by attaching to this idea or this thing, it's like it's actually throwing you off balance. And what they're saying is that you need to learn balance so that you can actually create more harmony, and do so in a way that's going to allow you to overcome this adversity. Let me just put this over here, because that's probably going to be more balanced. Speaking of balance, let's balance this out. Okay, let's get, oh, there's one. Doubt. I release the need to know all the answers. So the self-elimination, I think, is where this doubt really comes in. It's falling right on top of that, since I just moved adversity. So it's like you're doubting yourself, really, here is what I'm seeing, or you're doubting that you can actually do this, while at the same time having this deep inner world of fantasy that is creating the illusion that you've already achieved it, even though physically you haven't. It's like this feeling of achievement that's mingled with doubt. It's very dualistic, because it's like you're existing within these two states of being. One, which is like very pie in the sky, dreamy, and connected to that dream, or connected to that idea in a very almost visceral way, where you're experiencing the tangibility of it in your experience in the moment. Like, you're excited, you feel this sense of elation, where you're already starting to just relax and enjoy, like as if you're already there. But there's also this like hefty doubt that I'm feeling in the heart. And it's like, what if I don't make it? What if I can't overcome the adversity? What if I, maybe I should just quit before I'm ahead, because it's not going to work anyway. And I'm just going to put in all this effort, and then I'm going to come up with nothing to show for it. I'm going to fail. That's what I'm seeing here, is like you have these two sort of aspects of yourself. One of them is like, I can do anything, and the other one's like, I can do nothing. And it's like, where's the balance there? There's really, those two are very opposing forces, and it's like they're canceling each other out a little bit here, is what I'm seeing. And this is one of the adversities. This is one of the challenges that you need to overcome to get to where you want to go, is like, how do I create balance between that part of me that is so overly optimistic that it's almost delusional, and the part of me that is so hyper pessimistic and realistic that it's completely trashing my momentum and my movement towards my goals. So it's really like doing some integration work here between those two parts of the self, like doing some shadow work to really get those two to have a meeting here, sit down and have a little bit of a talk or a chat, because these two parts of you really need to get on the same page is what I'm seeing. Let's get one more from this deck and then we'll grab some more cards. What else do they need to know, Spirit? Empathy. I am open to seeing both sides of a situation. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. These two sides of you need to get on the same page. And it's seeing those two sides within yourself that I think is going to be really helpful here. And coming at this, this integration of these two parts of yourself with empathy. Have empathy for both of them, because both of them have valid reasons for feeling and thinking the way that they do. Like the part of you that is really overly optimistic, they have a dream and their heart is calling them in that direction for a reason. And the part of you that is hyper pessimistic and doubtful, yeah, they're probably afraid for a reason. And again, like they have every valid justification to think and feel that way, because they're scared and they have probably had experiences in the past that have created that fear or emphasized it. So having empathy for both parts of you, and again, having them come together in a harmonious way, is going to be helpful. Now, I do feel this card because it did kind of come out and it's been kind of sitting there. Oh, humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. So maybe just coming at this with a little bit of a lighthearted perspective. This one wants to come out to abundance. I am a limitless being and I can manifest whatever I desire in this physical reality. So Spirit's really wanting to drive home that you can do this. If you just come at it with a little bit more empathy for yourself, more balance, more willingness to really buckle down and do the work and look at it from a higher perspective, which can help you to kind of see the lighter side of things and laugh things off when you get a little bit too, delulu, where you're just way off in left field with your dreams, or where you get way too hypercritical of yourself and you start self-sabotaging and stuff like that, or going into doubt and fear. It's like, have a little humor and the capacity for empathy to see these parts of yourself as like little children. Like if we want to look at it that way, there's little children within you, and you kind of need to wrangle them up and sit them down and have a little story time and be like, hey guys, so yes, this is possible, but we do have to do a couple of things to get there, and we're going to do it together. Okay. It's kind of like, that's what I'm seeing here. And it's not like it's not being harsh with them. It's being very empathetic and very balanced in your approach. That's what's going to create this abundance long term. Okay, let's get some from this deck as well. The Hierophant. This is structure. That's what I'm feeling from it. This is structure. This is really talking about what you can practically do and what you need to implement, because they just gave me that word, implement. What you need to implement to be able to see changes happen in a physical way. So what in your life do you need to learn? Because the Hierophant can also speak of learning. What do you need to apply? What do you need to physically, practically be doing every day? Like, what does your daily routine look like? What are your thoughts looking like on a daily basis? All of these things kind of need to be factored in here if you're wanting to get to where you want to be going. And again, they're saying it is possible. But it's like, you just really need to do some research here. You need to hone it in. You need to laser focus, and you need to create balance as you're doing that. Okay, let's take a look. 10 of Discs. No way. This is abundance. You have abundance and abundance. So Spirit, like, yes, this is a harsh truth reading, but they're also saying that the highest truth of your abundant, free, luxurious lifestyle is possible. Like, it's right here. And they keep showing me Elle Woods when she's in the swimming pool, when she's doing that video that she's recording for Harvard. That's kind of what I'm seeing here, is like this energy of, you got into Harvard? What? Like, it's hard? It's like things that you're just expecting to be handed to you in this way. And it's like, it doesn't work like that, but they are there for you. That abundance is there for you. It's like written in the stars is what they just said. It's destined. It's in your natal chart, they just said too. So you might have some specific placements that indicate that you are meant to be in a position of abundance or leadership, or even potentially a teaching role, because the Hierophant can speak of learning and teaching. This could be like you could be like moving into spiritual influencer territory or something like that. Or it could just be something within your work front that you're meant to be doing that's going to create a lot of abundance for you and essentially like a legacy. But the peacocks here in the 10 of discs, they do speak to me of like being very visible, you know, like an influencer would be, where you are you're like kind of showing off, you know, yourself. But even in the example from Legally Blonde, I love Elle Woods because she is so innocent and pure. She is a free spirit, and she's actually very intelligent, and she obviously puts in the work, right? Like, she goes to Harvard, she gets the degree, she ends up going the long haul. She's not the airhead that everybody supposes her to be. And that's the energy I get from you guys here in group 1. You may have this dreamer aspect of you that may be a little bit almost gullible and naive, in the sense that you think that you can just do it all like that. Maybe you've gotten things kind of quite easily because you have some kind of, let's say, for example, pretty privilege, or you're just lucky. Like maybe you just have a very prominently placed Jupiter in your chart, where you just kind of have these blessings come in without having to work too hard at them. But they're saying that all things in balance, right? So like if that's the case, and that's like the status quo that you're used to, they're saying that the opposite of that is also true, that there are going to be things that you have to work really hard for. And it's kind of going to require more of you, and it's going to check your ego a little bit, is what Spirit just said. It's like you've got to check your ego a bit here, and it's part of your spiritual development. That's why it's happening. It's not to deflate you. It's not to dash your hopes. It's really to emphasize the growth of your ego in this balanced way, so that you have the optimism, but you're tempering it really with realism and practicality to be able to achieve your goals, not to give up on them, to actually achieve them. Okay, let's get some coffee cup oracles for you guys. I do feel this one. House, relocation, and home. So this could be something to do with your financial security, as we were seeing in the abundance and the 10 of discs, because the house is immediately what that reminded me of. It's like being stable within your home, your finances, your stability within your environment. That's very Taurus too. The Hierophant is Taurus. So it's like your home, your things, what you have, and your financial security. This could require you to change the way that you're living, is what I'm seeing here. It's like changing the dynamic of your home. It may require you to relocate. It may require you to pare down. It may require you to live below your means rather than above them, or, in them. It's like there's going to be not sacrifices, but there's going to be adjustments that are required to get you to where you want to be and where you need to be, because this is part of your soul's destiny. It is, for sure. It's not just a pipe dream. It's not like a pie in the sky type of thing. It is meant for you, group 1. Please know that. This is not to kick you off of your high horse or anything like that. Like, you are meant to be there, but it's like you've got to learn to own it. Like, you've got to learn to really work toward it and work hard for it, because that is how you're going to earn it. And in this case, there are certain things that you don't necessarily need to earn if you are in the energy of it and you're manifesting, but this is one of those things that you do need to quote unquote earn, because it is part of the lesson at soul level, is what they're telling me. Yeah, okay. No more of these, they said. Oh, okay. All right, so we're going to get a flower blossom to close your reading, group 1. What final message do they need to... Oh, there it is. Iris, spread your creative wings and take flight. Yeah, you're an artist, group number 1. Whether this is something that you're doing practically or not, like whether you are actually creating quote-unquote art, I see that you're an artist and you're meant to be doing something in a creative way. Maybe that's what you're trying to create or build in regard to the influencer. Maybe that's what you're doing in terms of teaching, or what you're doing in terms of building this legacy. It's like there's some aspect of it that's very, very creative, but it's also about creating based on what your practical actions are and how those are reflecting what you're wanting to manifest and what you desire to see in this physical reality that we call life. How are you implementing practically the skills, the knowledge, the efforts that are going to create this idea or this concept or this dream and make it reality. That's really the main message of this reading, and that's why they've had me repeat it several times, is because that is the truth that you are needing to hear right now. Bottom of the deck energy, we have Lysianthus, I think. Gratitude and grace always look lovely on you. So they're talking about finding the lighter side of this, right? Like the humor. And here they're talking about gratitude and grace. So it's like disconnecting from any doubt, fear, or worry, but at the same time, not discounting those things entirely and getting super overly optimistic. It's having that balance, but really emphasizing gratitude, because that gratitude for where you are currently and what you're doing in the moment is really going to help you to have the grace to overcome any challenges that arise and get you through the adversity part of this development, because this is a stage of your development, is what Spirit just said. And it's integral. It's integral to the outcome that you go through this stage of development. So have a little compassion for yourself, some empathy, because yes, there are going to be some things that you will need to overcome, but it's going to be worth it in the long run, is really what I'm seeing here. Like really, really worth it in the long run, because you're building something that's going to be a legacy for you, whether it's just a legacy that you will be remembered by or a legacy that you can pass down to next generations, right? It's really something that is long standing, very stable, but that's why it requires so much effort being put into the foundation of building it. So that is what I see for you, group number 1. I hope that this was not too triggering and that this harsh truth really actually supported you in achieving this goal and really seeing this abundance come to fruition in your life. That is my highest wish for you, because I know that it is destined for you, and I'm sending you all of the strength and persistence and perspective that is needed here to get you to your goal. All right, so I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting the channel. Thank you for liking, sharing, viewing, subscribing, commenting. Thank you to the members who support my channel and my work here through their memberships. And if you want to support the channel in that way too and get so much value from it, we do have memberships available. You can hit the join button down below this video and you get access to ad-free pick a card readings. You guys can request them from me as well. Like, members have a lot more sway on what we create on that side of the channel. We also do week ahead guidance every Sunday and monthly live streams where you guys can actually ask me personal questions directly, and I can provide guidance and healing and whatnot, anything that's needed. So if you guys are interested in that, hit the join button and explore the different tiers and options that are available to you. If you don't see the join button there, you may need to go through a desktop computer or through a web page, because sometimes the YouTube app, if you're on an iPhone, doesn't show it. So anyways, thank you so much, guys. I love you, and we'll see you in the next reading. Bye. All right. Hi, group number 2, brave souls. Welcome to your harsh truth reading. Group number 1 was, it was a little bit of harsh truth. So I'm interested to see what your guys' reading entails. So we have the contestant. Okay. So right away, group number 2, I'm feeling like you are contesting something. That's actually the interesting message that I'm getting. It's kind of like you're challenging something, you're debating something, you are questioning something. So let's get some information here. We're going to use the rest of this deck to get some clarifiers, and then we're going to go into some oracles and clarifiers from other tarot decks as well. You have the End. This is like the Death card. So yeah, it's like there's something that is being challenged here that you're ending. To be continued, the cliffhanger. Yeah, it's ending, but it's not like done. Maybe that's why. It's like something that you've started and you tried to end it, but it just keeps persisting. It's like it keeps coming back. It's like the cat came back. You know that song from, I think it was like the 80s or 90s. It was like the cat came back the very next day. The cat came back. We thought he was a goner, but the cat came back the very next day. He just wouldn't stay away. Like, that's kind of what I'm feeling here for you guys. You are trying to end a cycle and it just keeps coming back. So frustrating. I get it. Now you have Tattletale. 5 of Mirrors. Tattletale. It's like the rat. Ooh, maybe this is why you're contesting something, is because somebody has shared information or divulged something that is not within their space to do so. I don't know why that message is coming up, but it feels like somebody shared some truth of yours that was not their place to do so. Like it was not up to them to do that. They really crossed a boundary there is what I'm seeing. And that's maybe like legally. If this is like a legal thing, then it's like, yeah, somebody like ratted on you and you're needing to contest the accusation. If this is not legal, then it's like a karmic pattern of some kind where there's this theme or this cycle of people really kind of betraying you or ratting you out. But they are drawing my attention to the mirror. So it's kind of like it's mirroring you in some way. And that's why it keeps being continued, is because it's a cycle that needs to have your awareness of how you're involved in it and what your part is. So it's like you're trying to contest it, but you're not fully aware of what you're doing to actually kick these things into gear. You have 8 of mirrors in your head. Yeah, so it's like you're very in your head about this. Obviously, I can see that here, like you're contesting something, you're trying to battle against it, either in your own head or in your life, but you just kind of keep hitting your head against a wall is what they're showing me. And you're frustrated. I get that. You're totally frustrated and you have every right to be frustrated. But what you're not seeing is, again, where you are creating this, because this is something, especially as it's a karmic pattern, that you have created. Okay, this is the harsh truth. It is not something outside of you. It is not a pattern that is outside of your control. It's not other people who are doing this to you. That is just the external circumstance. And if you're feeling triggered right now, I want you to look at that trigger and I want you to sit with it and really ask yourself, where's the healing? Because triggers are wonderful tools to show you where you need to heal. They can directly point you in the direction, but you kind of have to reverse engineer it. You have to find out what's the trigger and then what's the opposite of that. What's the need? So I'm seeing here that it's like there's something in your own mind that is projecting this outward and then attracting the circumstances or the situations that are creating this type of betrayal or this type of ending that is very dysfunctional and toxic, and then the repeating of that cycle over and over and over again. Okay, we're ready for these lesson cards. These are the Soul Journey lesson cards by James Van Praagh. Thank you so much to the donor who sent these in to us through the Amazon wish list. Okay, so I feel this one. You have, no way, group number 1 had this: adversity. I accept that challenges are the best way to learn. Okay, so they are talking about overcoming this here through your own energy. Like, the challenge here is how you are learning. It is meant to help you learn and grow, but it's like you have to face it, you have to own it, you have to take responsibility or be accountable for your part in this. Okay. Fear. I realize that I am testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. So where's the fear? Maybe these aren't even actual situations. Maybe these are just things that you fear. Like if you tell someone, if you open up to someone, they're going to betray you. Or if you try to, end something, or if you try to get into a relationship, someone's going to end it with you or something like that. Like this, it feels very interpersonal, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be, it's like a lot of fear. It's being in your own head. I'm seeing overthinking like a lot here, guys. That's really the adversity that you're being challenged to overcome and grow through here. And you got to go through it to grow through it, because you've got to learn to discipline your mind is kind of what I'm seeing here, so that you can really overcome this fear and this worry and this projection, because that's kind of what it is. It's not even like worry at the mental level. It's like a deep subconscious fear that is being projected out into the world around you, and therefore that's what you're creating. That's what you're seeing. That's the pattern that's being enacted. And those are the types of dynamics that you're seeing too. Yeah, your imagination is creating these. I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. So you need to embrace the positive capabilities of your imagination, because right now what I'm seeing is that you're kind of using your imagination for bad. Not in like a hurting other people type of way, but like there's a positive way to use it and there's a negative way to use it. And you're using your imagination negatively to kind of create what you don't want. And you're doing that very surreptitiously is the word that they just gave me. It's like very sort of like below the surface. It's not something that you're doing overtly. It's like covert. You're doing covert type of influence on your reality. So that's why they want you to realize this. This is why it's a harsh truth reading, is so that they can really kind of shake you awake, is what Spirit is showing me. They're showing me somebody literally like being like, wake up, you're doing this to yourself. Because your imagination is extremely powerful. Group number 2, extremely powerful. And they want you to own that. Like, you need to own that, is what I'm seeing here. But what's happening is that you're kind of projecting it outward and saying, well, it's because this other person did this, or it's because of the circumstances, or it's because of this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, those things are true. But what's actually the highest truth at the core of this issue, or at the core of this karmic pattern, is that your imagination is creating these things. Because there's a wound underneath the surface. It's not that you're doing something wrong, okay? You're not bad. You're not doing anything wrong. I want you to know that. The issue here is that there's a wound underneath the surface that is unconsciously, again, unconscious. You're not doing this intentionally. It's a deep, deep part of you, and it's hidden from you. Like, you don't see it. That's the problem, is you don't see it, but it's creating the circumstances in your life that are very visible and tangible. So that's where you want to look at it. Like, the trigger is a key, and the circumstances you're attracting are a key. Those are all patterns that you need to learn to recognize so that you can work with this imagination more productively, so that you can actually create something that is going to be a lot more aligned for you, and not going to come with this energy of like harsh endings and then the repeat and repeat and repeat of that cycle. You have to use your imagination for good here in regard to what you really want to create, and how you need to kind of get out of your own head to be able to do that. It's like healing your fear. It's a wound of fear. And you do need to contest that. Maybe that's what this is about. Like, because I can see somebody like fighting for something, fighting against something that is not aligned. But it's like, you need to challenge this fear, is what I'm seeing. Yeah. You need to challenge this deep, deep-seated fear within you. This goes way back, and it's something that's been there for a long time. And that's why these karmic patterns keep coming back around, is because it has not been resolved yet. Until it's resolved, it will continue to repeat. But if you can face it head on and not continue to project the blame outward, and I'm not saying that you were doing that intentionally. Again, this is very unconscious, subconscious stuff. So it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to acknowledge and to accept and to take accountability for these patterns. Because you are the creator of your reality. Everything that you experience is a reflection of what is going on energetically within you, emotionally, mentally, etc. And some people might argue that, well, that's not necessarily true. There are some things that are random. And there's some truth in that, because we have to look at this in regard to duality. There are objective truths, but when we're here in the dualistic realm, there are usually multiple truths, and all of them are true. And so, yes, there are random things that happen that are sort of outside of our control, but also those things are inadvertently influenced by what we are embodying energetically, what's in our soul blueprint, what's in our DNA, what's in our lineage, what's in our choices and actions from the past, and all of those things kind of congeal into this soup of these random things that might happen or that are attracted. So there most definitely is a higher order to it all, even if we don't necessarily understand it, or even if it's not something that we want. So that's why they're like, you need to address this fear so that you can uproot whatever is within you that is creating these repeating patterns and cycles of karma. Okay, let's get some clarifiers here from this tarot deck. No, keep going. Okay, thank you. For group number 2, the Queen of Discs and the Three of Cups. So these are actually quite positive cards, but what I'm seeing here is that it's like you have to kind of uproot something from the past. That's what they're showing me here with all the plants in this card. It's kind of like you need to uproot something from the past that has really laid its roots down in your life, and that's why it keeps like you keep pruning back the plant is what they're showing me in my mind. But then in the spring or the next cycle, it just kind of comes back and you're like, what the hell? I thought that I dealt with this. And it's like, no, because you didn't uproot it. You pruned it back, or you cut it down. Maybe you cut it down at the stem, but it's still got the roots in the ground, and so it will continue to come back. It's like, a perennial plant that each time, each year, each season, it comes back around. So you kind of have to fully remove every little strand of it from your life. It's like a cancer that you have to get all of the tumor out. Otherwise, it's going to continue to proliferate. And you need to address the environment, which has created the potential for that cancer to grow in the first place. And I'm not saying that there's an actual cancer here, okay? It's a metaphor for this karmic pattern. And it's the wound that is creating the environment, and it's the actions from your own mind and imagination that are creating the roots, or that are the roots of this. And it's to do with, I was getting this message of interrelational dynamics. It's really connected to your friend circles, to your colleagues, to your relationships of all kind, is what Spirit just said. So it's literally your relationship to other people in the world. And there could be patterns, like I said, of betrayal, like people telling your secrets or talking behind your back or betraying you in some way. And it's like the fear of this is really what's driving this. It's like, because it's been done to you in the past, there's that wound around it. And then that wound creates the projection that it'll happen again, which really energetically influences the type of relationships you're drawing in. And then as a result, the pattern repeats. So again, you got to get to the root of it. You got to uproot that. You got to rip that root out, which may mean, taking action to distance yourself from relationships where clearly these people are not trustworthy, or they don't have your best interests at heart, even if they've been with you for a long time in your life, or maybe they're even family or something like that. It's like you kind of have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this the type of relationship that is going to actually support me and really create a sense of safety for me, which is what I need, because the opposite of safety here is fear. So the opposite of the fear is the safety. That's the need, right? So you want to look at the trigger to be able to reverse engineer what the need is and then meet the need, because that is what's going to help you to uproot this and shift the environment where this rooted fear has really taken root. I just keep saying that, but yeah, I can't think of another word that's better for it, because that's what they keep showing me is like roots in the ground. Okay, let's take a look at your coffee cup oracle. Sorry if you guys can hear something in the background. I think my neighbors upstairs are doing some vacuuming or something. I don't know. You have hidden gem pearl. There's a pearl within this agitation, okay? It's like there's a potential here for you to really create something powerful for yourself. And it's not something that is going to take a lot of time, is what they just said. You're actually going to be able to do this quite quickly once you set this in motion. It's not going to take years. It's going to take like hours or days, really. Like that's so freaking fast when we're talking about this at energetic level. But I really feel like it's going to shift things super fast for you once you kind of get this in hand. Okay, sorry, I just had to stop recording for a second because they were vacuuming like right over top of my office and it was super loud and distracting. But what I was talking about is like this is energy being able to shift quite quickly is what Spirit is saying. And now I think that there's like this misconception around the fact that karmic patterns take a long time to heal because they've been there for a long time. And yes, sometimes that is very, very true. But in this instance, what they're saying is that you can shift this kind of like overnight simply because you haven't really had the awareness or the tools of what you were kind of getting at here. Like you were hacking away at the top of the bush, and that's why it took so long and so many tries to get it right. But it didn't work because you didn't actually have awareness that there was something underneath that you didn't see. And once you see it, like once you get that pearl of wisdom or that awareness, that is the game changer. And that is what just flips the script immediately. And then you can start like boom, 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 changing these circumstances in your life. And then you won't see it repeat like this anymore. But it's like you're going to be challenged to face this, is what they keep saying. It's like you're not going to get off easy here, in the sense that you will have to address this, you will have to face it, and you will actually have to make some practical changes. Like you might have to tell people we can't be friends anymore, or you might have to have a conversation that is uncomfortable. Maybe it doesn't look like that, but maybe it's like, hey, I did not appreciate you saying this behind my back, or hey, I really need to talk about the way that you've handled this legal court case, or something like that, or like, or hey, I can't stay in this romantic relationship anymore because it's very dysfunctional and we keep going around and around and around in the same, unhealthy patterns, and packing your bags and actually leaving for good and never going back. So it's like these types of things that may come about, right? Obviously take that with a grain of salt and apply it to your own life and what feels right for you intuitively. But like those are the themes that I'm seeing. And so it is going to require some action on your part. It's not just changing your mindset. It's not just changing how you approach this fear. It is really actually doing something physically that's going to change the pattern, because that's what karma is. It's something that we've implemented at the level of action that has created momentum, that we need to stop the momentum with another or different action. But the thing is that the thoughts and the feelings were what were driving the action. So it's like you address those and change the action. Now you've addressed the tumor and the environment in which it grew. So now you can actually heal, and you can be like in lifelong remission, is what Spirit just said. Like you'll be in lifelong remission, because it will not be an environment in which this type of karmic pattern can exist anymore. Yeah. They really want you to know and understand that they acknowledge how hard you've been working at this. They don't want to discount your effort, is what they're saying. They really want you to know that they can see that you've really tried hard to fight this pattern, or to contest it, or trying to heal it. So they don't want you to feel like all of that work was for nothing. They want you to know that that was actually part of it too. Like you had to learn those lessons in addition to addressing the core lesson here, which is the roots of the issue. And so all of that hacking that you did at the top of the bush was actually very productive, because it taught you how to address the upper level, and now you're learning how to address the lower level, and how to really, get rid of things that don't serve you in your life. All right. Take a look at the flower blossoms here as your final closing message. Group number 2, you have Buttercup. Be ready. The best is on its way. I love this for you, group number 2, because it's like if you've really kind of had your guard up and you've been hyper vigilant and you've been imagining worst case scenarios and getting stuck in these like feedback loops of karma, they're saying, don't worry, because the best is on its way. Once this is uprooted, and it's going to happen quite quickly, they keep repeating that message, you're going to really see a turnaround in your life, and that fear will turn to wisdom, and that doubt or that adversity will turn into growth, positive growth. And you're going to see your imagination start to shift to more positive outlets, where you can actually create stable foundations, abundance for yourself, fertility, growth. Like you're going to thrive. If you've been in survival mode, you're actually going to be able to thrive now that cancerous growth, or that, unhealthy weed, or whatever it was that was really kind of destroying your healthy environment, is removed. Let's get one more from this deck for you, group number 2. Final closing messages from Spirit for group 2, please, on this truth. Aster, the past is over. Let your true self step forward. Yeah, the past is over. We have a definitive end here for you, group number 2. The end, and it will not be continued. It's not a cliffhanger. It's the end of an era, and it's darn time. It's like, I almost said darn tootin'. It's like, it's darn tootin' time that this pattern ended. Okay, sorry. I don't know why. Maybe we're just trying to like bring humor into it. Everything that happens in a reason. Everything that happens in a reading happens for a reason. So bringing a little bit of levity to this very sort of heavy, dark issue, I think, is also what they're recommending. The humor card came out in group 1, and it just feels like it's relevant for you guys too. And then this one is kind of poking out here. I want to take it. Prosperity can be assured if you care well for tomorrow. Well, I love that because you have the hidden gem here. The pearl of wisdom is very valuable, and it's that underneath the surface energy that you haven't seen. The prosperity is there. We do have the Queen of Pentacles here too, Queen of Discs. So if this is to do with finances or in any way to do with like a sense of prosperity where you can truly thrive and grow, this is also assured to you. Like you can change this pattern. Like so let's say, for example, it's with your finances and you're just constantly feeling like you don't have enough, or that other people are taking from you, or that, you know, you try to change the pattern and then you get back into debt again. It's like you pay it off and then boom, you're right back where you started. Same thing. It's like you can really assure the prosperity for tomorrow if you take the actions today to get to the root of this issue and to overcome these challenges. So they want you to be ready because the best is yet to come. The past is over, and it's are you going to let yourself step out of those confines? Are you going to let yourself grow? Are you going to feel safe enough to be able to step out of the actual comfort zone that was this adversity? And I know that sounds strange, but I've experienced this myself. Like I've lived this, so I know that it's true. We can become comfortable in very, very toxic environments simply because it's familiar. That's just the way the brain is wired. We're wired for familiarity, not necessarily for what is best for us. If what is best for us is something that becomes familiar, that's really the best case scenario, and that's where you're moving into. But often what can happen is that if we're familiar with something, especially if we're raised with a toxic pattern or a dysfunctional dynamic in life, what can happen is that our unconscious mechanisms kind of draw us back to those types of people or situations or actions because it's familiar. So it's quite literally needing to overcome the familiarity of this energy that's continuing to be drawn into your life or projected through your own unconscious seeking. Because again, the brain, it just unconsciously seeks these things. The mind unconsciously seeks these things. And so it's like stopping that habit by breaking the spell of the unconsciousness, by making the unconscious conscious. You take back your power and control. Recognize the pattern, step into your power. You got this. Group number 2. That is my final message for you and from Spirit is you have got this. You have got to trust yourself here, and you can, and you will, and you're doing it. So step into the future, ready for this change, and don't let the past hold you back for one more second. You are done with that and you're ready. All right, guys, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this reading was not too triggering for you. I hope that it was supportively triggering, that it actually helped in a positive growth for you, and that it helps you to really break free from this pattern and cycle. That's my highest intention, and I'm sending you so much loving and supportive energy to help you do that. Thank you so much for supporting me here in my work with these readings. Thank you for viewing, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing, for commenting below. Let me know how this resonates or what's coming up for you in regard to this reading topic. And thank you to the members who support the channel financially through their memberships here. It helps me to continue doing this work. Thank you to the donors who have sent in decks for us to use here on the channel through my Amazon wishlist, which is linked below as well. And thank you to those who send in super thanks or donations through the PayPal link linked in the description box as well. I so appreciate your contributions, big or small, to my work here. It truly lets me know that you find value in what Spirit and I are trying to do here in support of your healing, your growth, and your soul's evolution. So thank you so much, guys. I love you, and we'll see you in the next reading. Bye. All right, hi, group number 3, brave souls. Welcome to your harsh truth reading. All right, so let's find out what card you chose. Oh my God, you have 5 of flutes. Sorry, I'm the worst, and it says I effed up, but it doesn't say that. You know what it says, but I'm gonna censor it here just in case, because it's not this is not an 18+ reading, so I'm just going to cover that up with a little cute little teddy bear. So it says, sorry, I'm the worst. I effed up. I made a mistake. So there's something here that I'm getting an energy of guilt, something that you feel unconsciously or maybe even consciously guilty for. Let's get some additional messages here from this tarot. And then we'll get some oracle cards and some clarifiers. What is this? Oops. Okay, they really want to show that. Little bear got moved. You have the Six of Rings, quality time. Maybe you feel guilty for neglecting someone or something, like you have not been giving the quality time to something that you really feel like you should be. Possessive, Four of Rings. Ooh. Maybe you feel like, yeah, I get this feeling of like, there's two sides, okay? So there's probably two sort of sides to the group of people who are here, who are drawn to this reading. Either you are extremely possessive and it's coming from this sort of attachment energy, this wounded attachment archetype, which is presenting itself as codependency, where you're overly attaching to people in your life who you feel this connection to, and that's creating an overburden on them, and you're feeling guilty because of that. Or you have really the other attachment style. You know, the possessiveness would be more anxious attachment if we're talking about like attachment styles. And I'm also seeing the opposite end of that spectrum with avoidant attachment, which is kind of like pushing away, not spending a lot of quality time, and then kind of inadvertently hurting the people that you love or care about because you're not prioritizing their needs because of that unconscious attachment wound around connection. So I think it can probably go either way here, but I'm going to see if we can get some clarity on this energy and what this message is for you. Keep it chill. Interesting. So I see here that, yeah, you might be more of the avoidant type, group number 3, and you might be dealing with people who are a little bit more attachment style of anxious attachment style, because that's usually the dynamic. Like attachment styles do polarize each other in that way. Like somebody who's avoidant will tend to attract anxious partners, and people who are anxious will tend to be drawn to avoidant. There's lots of people talking about that here on YouTube. If you're looking for more information on anxious attachment, things like that, there's a ton of YouTube channels. If you just punch that in, I'm sure they'll come up. But I'm seeing here that like Spirit really wants to talk about attachment styles. That's the theme here. And it's like, are you kind of like playing like you're cool and you know, oh, I just don't really have time for that right now or something like that. But really it's like you're trying to keep your heart safe. Like you're pushing away people who might potentially kind of get into your vulnerable zone. You have next destination, 3 of Roses. Yeah, I feel like you're always kind of like on to the next thing. Like if, say, for example, you get into a relationship, they get a little too close to you and then you start pushing them away, perhaps. Or the opposite, right? The other end of that spectrum. I feel like it's like 70-30. I feel like 70% of you are the avoidant style type and 30% of you are anxious. And there's other ones too. There's fearful avoidant. There's secure attachment. Obviously, that's what we're all kind of striving for, or like we should be striving for. But it takes a lot of healing to get there, you know? But I'm seeing that it's like, yeah, it's this dynamic of runner chaser. Yeah. Oh, they told me on to the next cards. Okay. Oh, it's so funny. They're like on to the next cards, and it's almost like that song, on to the next one, on to the next one. It's like that. Maybe that's what you do in relationships, right? Like if somebody gets a little too close, you're like on to the next one, you know, thank you, next, you know. I'm just keeping it chill. I'm not trying to commit. I'm not trying to get into these really deep, you know, heartfelt connections. And then, but there's guilt here around that perhaps, because it's like, you know, maybe deep down you do care and you do love these people and you do want to be with them, but there's just that unconscious wound around the attachment style that is preventing you from healthily connecting to people. Ooh, you have blame. I accept responsibility for my well-being. And so there may be some blame that is being cast, like, oh, this other person is too needy. Or on the other flip side, it's like if you're the one who's really overly attaching in that anxious style, maybe you're like, oh, that other person is just very cold and they're, you know, a narcissist or something like that, which I don't know, maybe they are. But I think that the avoidant the avoidant anxious dynamic, it can spark a lot of blame because it's like, why does this person keep running from me if they tell me that they're going to connect? Or why can't they just understand that I need more quality time with myself, or I just need more alone time, or I just want to keep it chill, like I'm not really looking for a commitment, something like that. It feels very relational for you guys. If you're not in a relationship dynamic like this, or you don't identify as being anxious or avoidant, doesn't mean it's not the right reading for you. I would stick around to see if any messages resonate or you really hit home, but it may not be your reading, so use your intuition to guide you to what feels right. But I mean, I feel like if you clicked on this reading, there's a reason you're here. And it's like some kind of harsh truth that you needed to hear. And if you're still here, then you're really taking responsibility, or you're being called to take responsibility for your part in this. Like, what is your attachment style? Whatever end of the spectrum you happen to fall on, or whatever category you fall in, what is your attachment style? And how can you stop blaming the outside world, or even your parents, because that's really where it starts. It's in childhood, for what your state of existence is in regard to your relationships, and instead take responsibility for starting to work towards being securely attached. Like, what are the patterns that you need to change? What is the healing that you need to do for yourself? Instead of just saying, sorry, I'm the worst, what can you do to actually change that? Because an apology is not an apology without changed behavior. And not doing that changed behavior for the other person, but really doing it for yourself. That is the truest form of an apology, because it doesn't even just show that you care. It is that you care, because you wouldn't do that if you didn't care. It's like, if you want real, true, authentic connection without this attachment of possessiveness that really kind of drives people apart here in these dynamics and keeps you like trying to play it cool and keep it chill and not commit. It's like you really have to accept responsibility for your own well-being, because that's kind of at the root of this. And yes, there are other people's, dynamics that are involved here, but it does start and end with us. We have to be responsible. Empathy. I am open to seeing both sides of a situation. Now, it's interesting that came up as we were just talking about, it's like it starts and ends with us, but there's definitely other people's attachment styles that are involved here. And empathy is here to really challenge you to have empathy for other people. I think if you clicked on this group, I'm just going to say it because this is a harsh truth reading, you have some narcissistic qualities. Guess what, guys? We all do. You can be the deepest, most profound empath, and you can still have some narcissistic qualities. You know why? Because we all have an ego, and the ego is an operating system that functions on self-involvement. That's just what it does. That's what it's based around. And so we all have some small narcissistic or selfish qualities, and that's actually a good thing in moderation. Where it becomes really dysfunctional is when the wound around the inner self, the attachment wound, is so severe that the building of the outside perfect self becomes so overt that the empathy for others is lost, because the projection of the self is such an illusion. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that narcissists are created. They're not born. Negatively oriented souls are born, but I won't go into that here. Narcissists are created. The reason they're created is through wounding. And an empath and a narcissist are two ends of the same spectrum. They are two sides of the same coin. And which one you happened to fall on was not because you were better or worse than. If you end up being a narcissist, it doesn't mean that you're not sensitive. It doesn't mean that you're not caring or have the capacity for that. It's just that those cues got shut down as a survival mechanism. And if you fall on the other side and you're the empath in this side of the equation, then you actually do have the same wounding or similar wounding to the narcissist. It's just that you chose to go the other route, where you don't want to hurt other people because you were so severely wounded yourself. And so instead of becoming selfish, you actually became selfless, which is like self-sacrificial energy. Both of these energies are dysfunctional. Both of these relational dynamics are extremely toxic. The empath without boundaries is extremely toxic. And I had to learn that firsthand, because let me tell you, I was raised by a narcissist, and I'm an empath, and it's the same energy. And I can understand why one of my primary caregivers was that way, because there was wounding. And I also understand why I became the way I did, because there was wounding. And it's within each of our individual responsibilities to understand these things within ourselves and not cast blame. Like, I had to really own up to the fact that I needed to address these issues because I'm fearful avoidant, or I was. I'm 70% secure attachment now because I've worked so hard at it. So it is changeable. And that's what I'm seeing here, even for narcissists. And if you're like the 1% of narcissists who happen to click or was drawn to this reading, and you, for some reason, you actually have been able to acknowledge that, because that's also very rare, you can change. You can heal. You just have to do it for yourself, for nobody else. You have to do it for yourself. You have to accept where you are failing other people and yourself in these relationship dynamics, and choose to consciously make a commitment to your self-development and no longer blame anyone else outside of you. It's really, and it's not about blaming yourself, because that's just going to create more damage. You really want to be accountable, but with compassion to yourself. That's the empathy. It's seeing both sides of the situation while acknowledging that it is this way for a reason. It's not like it happened for a reason, but I'm saying that like it became this way, the way that it is, because of circumstances, because of wounding, because of like real life things that happened. Now, those are not excuses. They're reasons, and those are very different things. Those are not excuses, they are reasons. And reasons can help you to understand something. And by understanding it, you can change it. Because it's really through awareness that we take power back, and we can actually control and change things for the better. But it's like you have to accept it first to be able to do that. Okay, let's get some coffee cup oracles for you guys here. I do see this one. Tree, stability and growth. So it's really about creating some stable growth here. And you may need to go through, I just heard the 12-step program. If some of you are alcoholics, you may need to, or if one of you is an alcoholic, you may need to, first of all, admit that to yourself, and you may need to make amends. Because I think part of the 12-step program is like you have to say sorry to people and stuff like that. And that may be where this I am the worst cake comes in, right? It's like going out and apologizing truly, authentically to the people that you have inadvertently hurt with your own wounding, and making amends in that way, because that's going to help to create more stable growth for yourself, and open up to the healing that is possible here. Okay, let's take a look at some clarifiers from this deck. Oh, you have the 10 of Wands. Wow. Okay. And the Ace of Cups. So for those of you here who are empaths, and you can be an empath and still be avoidant attachment. You can be an empath and be anxious attachment. It really, it varies, but I'm seeing that you've taken on a lot, probably too much. Like maybe you've accepted less than from other people, and you've blamed them. Like I was saying before, like, oh, that person's just a narcissist, or oh, that person's just this or that. But it's like you want to look to why those relationships are attracted in your life in the first place, and what you are doing to contribute to that. Where are you pouring into these people and expecting a different result? Like maybe you need to check your empathy a little bit with some boundaries. It doesn't mean shutting your heart off and not being sensitive and not being compassionate. No, of course not. I would never advise that. I would advise the opposite. Be more compassionate, but more compassionate to yourself in the sense that you are having better boundaries, because that way you can actually connect to people more authentically and mutually, where it's no longer this giver-taker, runner-chaser dynamic, and it becomes the mutual reciprocal growth that actually supports a healthy relationship dynamic. Because I'm seeing a lot of codependency in this relationship, and that really, the dynamic between the narcissist and the empath is very much what that is. It's not going to be the case every time. but it's very common for narcissists and empaths to be drawn together and then to become codependent. I've lived it myself many times. So I'm, speaking from experience here, okay? And again, it's like that pattern of what's comfortable that becomes the status quo. Were we talking about that in this reading or in group 2? Ooh, maybe it was group 2. I was talking about how toxic situations can become so comfortable that they become normalized, and we unconsciously sort of seek those out. Like, for example, if you were raised by a narcissist and you became an empath because you transmuted that wound into compassion, then what ends up happening is you can attract narcissists who kind of fit the template of the dominant parent that embodied those traits. And so you keep repeating that cycle because you are unconsciously comfortable with that dynamic, even though it's completely dysfunctional and toxic to you. We can get very comfortable with things that are really dysfunctional. And that's why we need to really accept responsibility and accountability for changing these patterns so that they don't become so comfortable that we keep repeating them for our lifetime. It's like you need to become uncomfortable with the toxic and comfortable with the secure, which for attachment styles like the ones that we're talking about in this reading, it can feel actually really scary to be with somebody who's securely attached. Like, for an anxious attachment to connect to a securely attached person, they might perceive them as an avoidant. If a narcissist tries to connect with a securely attached person, they're not going to get the unconscious need met, because the securely attached person is like, what? No. So it just there's conflict between them, in the sense that they just don't feed each other in that way, because the securely attached person is going to see the red flags. The securely attached person is going to be able to identify where something is dysfunctional, whereas the anxiously attached person will not necessarily, because it seems familiar. And so it becomes something that is bypassed, like the red flag is bypassed. So this is taking responsibility for your part in it, whichever side of the spectrum you fall on. It's like you need to change yourself to be able to see changes in your relationship dynamics, rather than just apologizing and continuing to say sorry either to yourself or to another person. To create stable growth, you have to focus on yourself, your compassion for yourself, which is addressing this wound at the core. Compassion for self is not ignoring the issue and saying I'm the best and it's everyone else's fault. Compassion for self is saying I'm at fault here and so is this other person, but I know my part in it and I can only change my part in it. So I need to be doing that right now. I need to be able to see both sides, but focusing on the one that I can control, which is me and me alone. And instead of running from the pattern and playing it cool as though you've done nothing wrong or you're not involved in this, actually taking the time to sit down and undo the chains from inside your heart and look at Pandora's box, because that's what they're showing me in my mind. Spirit's showing me Pandora's box. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. You're scared you're going to open it and it's going to melt your face off like in Indiana Jones. But they're saying you need to look at it. You need to look at it, because this is what's going to help you to heal. This is what's going to help you to really see yourself more clearly with empathy. And if you're a narcissist, that's really hard to do, because the wound is so severe that the false self has been created in such a pristine way that any challenging of that will just shatter it and everything falls apart. But it's like you have to look at Pandora's box to be able to rebuild. It's like you've got to declare bankruptcy here to be able to rebuild a stable foundation. And if you're the empath, it's looking at your part in it. Where are your own narcissistic traits and qualities? Because I can tell you from experience that I thought that I was always I was the martyr and I was self-sacrificing and I did so much for everyone else. But really, at the end of the day, what was happening was that I was unconsciously trying to control this other person in the relationship by giving them everything that I had to make them happy, to give myself a sense of self-worth, and trying to control how they operated through my self-sacrificial energy to try and keep myself safe. And so ultimately those goals, even though I'm an empath and I'm very sensitive and compassionate, and I realized and I had to be accountable to the fact that I was actually doing that for my own self-serving purposes. And it was highly dysfunctional and unhelpful for a true authentic connection, because I was actually putting this person on a pedestal and trying to put myself in a position where I would feel worthy of being with them by overgiving. But at the same time, it was like this, it was just really, it's hard for me to talk about it. It's like, it's still kind of a jumble in my mind, because you get into these dynamics and it's so dysfunctional and so toxic that it's like a whirlwind. It's just chaos. But it's like stepping back from it can really help to unpack all of the patterns within that. And that's when I started seeing, oh, I'm actually trying to inadvertently control this person by people pleasing. I'm trying to control the way they perceive me and the way that they give to me and how that creates safety for me. And oh, I'm attracting narcissists because I'm feeding them so much energy. I'm self-sacrificing, and that's exactly what they need to feel good about themselves and to feel like somebody is so devoted to them that they would give up their own autonomy. And that created those really dysfunctional, toxic, codependent relationships. So it's like, really, I had to like snap the fuck out of it. And I think that's what Spirit's telling you here, group number 3. If you were drawn to this reading, if you're still here, it's like, you've got to snap out of it. You've got to see the truth here, and you've got to own and take responsibility for the fact that you are playing a part in this. It's not everybody else's fault. Yes, there are narcissists, but that doesn't take you out of the equation. It takes 2 to tango, and you need to own that and understand what you need to do to change this pattern or this dynamic within yourself, and do some research. Look into attachment styles, look into patterns, look into the healing of this wound, do some therapy, things like that. It really does help. I can tell you from my own experience, it really, really helps. You can heal this. You can better yourself here in regard to your relationship dynamics and your attachment style. It is possible to become securely attached, even if you're so in the deep end of, like, say, for example, fearful avoidant, which is one of the hardest ones, because that's what I am. And you can still come back from it. You certainly can. And I'm not all the way there yet. I'll admit that. I have to be honest with myself. That's self-empathy. But it's possible to make progress. It's possible to create change, and it's possible to create a new comfortable, which is more secure and stable. That will foster growth. That is true empathy for self and others. All right, guys, so I will leave it there. That is what I see for your group number 3. This was definitely the harshest of the harsh truth readings. If you guys were called to this reading and you're still here, like, kudos to you. I want you to give yourself a pat on the back, because you deserve it right now. That was tough, and it was probably triggering. So don't come for the messenger here. I've lived this. I get it. I understand, and I empathize, and I hold compassion for you, and I love you guys. And that's the reason why Spirit asked me to do this reading, and why I actually showed up today to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I'm doing it because I love you guys, and I know that you deserve the truth, even if it's painful. So yeah, that's what I see for you. Thank you so much for being here, guys, for sticking through it, for bettering your circumstances in your life. You deserve it. All right. I love you. I wish you the best, all the healing and the support that you need to be able to become a stable, securely attached individual, because that's what you truly deserve. And you deserve to heal. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.